Hey,
Hello, mate.
how are we going, Skulls?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Good. I like the hairdo, man.
Thanks, mate. Bit of a change up, bit of a
Yeah,
bit of a mix up.
it's a mix up.
Probably wrong time of year for a short cut though. I should be doing it in the summer, not the winter.
I love it that you trusted your wife to give you a haircut.
Yeah, well, she can't do much wrong with a shave. Like I wouldn't want her doing all the fine nitty gritty details, but can't go wrong with a buzz cut, I don't think.
I gave my wife the role as well to cut my hair, and she left a little spot there somewhere around there. She left a little hole there.
Mate, I'll tell you what. When I was playing at Middlesex and I was living with Sam Robson, who went on to play for England, he cut my hair one day. And I thought it was good, and I was walking down the street, like going about my business, and he'd like literally shaved off the back of my head, and I had no idea. And all the boys I was with were laughing, and yeah, I wouldn't trust my mates, but my wife wants me to look good, so I can trust her.
You do look good. I was going to say, how's things in Perth going? Here in Sydney, actually, things are easing up a little bit. So we are on our way to resuming our normal lives. Still a little bit more restrictions, but how's things in Perth?
Yeah, thanks, Sports Yogi Louis. Hope you're well, mate. It is actually we've been very lucky here. My sister-in-law I caught up with last weekend. She said that we're probably in the best place in the world to be, WA. We're incredibly isolated, so we're not having many cases here. We're allowed to get out and about. We're allowed to get back into groups. We're back in the gym. We're back into indoor centres. Everything in WA at the moment, as we stand, is actually going quite well. So I know other parts of the world, India's really got some tough times. They're still on lockdown, and England's starting to ease. I know South Africa's got it tough, and other parts of the world are far worse off than we are. So we're pretty lucky here at the moment.
Great. So I'm pretty sure most of the viewers that are here want to learn more about yourself. Tom, we've had you, I think you were one of my first podcasts in 2018, late 2018, where we chatted, somewhat about your professional county cricket career, a little bit about cricket mentoring. So today we will learn more about it, more so about the lessons that you've learned in the process, your association with the Karnataka Institute of Cricket as well. And hopefully at the end of today's session, we can, get you to answer some of the questions that gets posted on our comment section, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
So I've told you before, you're possibly my favorite cricket content creator or influencer. It's like a fangirl moment for me. But it's saying that, your content is not just applicable to athletes and cricketers, but also people in our day-to-day lives. Did the mentoring part of it come naturally to you, or was it more you've learned, during this whole process with cricket mentoring?
Mate, to be honest, I grew up trying to be a sports person and a cricketer. And when I look back now and I reflect on my life and how I got to where I am, I look back and think about when I was a teenager, I was coaching 6-year-olds in tennis. And I think I was learning then how to communicate, how to get my message across to young people. And as I've developed and got older and reflected and learnt and continued to seek answers and being very curious, I've started to understand what it is that makes success. And I didn't know when I was playing professionally for Middlesex. I didn't really get it. I was just so caught up and focused on myself and my technique, and I didn't understand all the other things in terms of lifestyle and how I thought, how important my thoughts and my emotions are to my performance. So I don't think it's come naturally. I don't think, to be honest, some things come naturally to some people, but I think a lot of things are hard work and grind, and you learn on the job, you learn as you go, and hopefully with a growth, sort of the old cliche, growth mindset, you keep evolving, you keep adapting, you keep changing your teachings and your method. And so for me, I don't think it came naturally, but something that I think has come naturally is that I love people. I love meeting people. I love talking to people. I love learning about people. And I love seeing people do well. I love seeing people being happy and living their best life. So that's something I suppose I'm passionate about. And through all my learning, I'm trying to help people who are cricketers live
Yeah.
their best life on the field and live their best life off the field.
These next two questions are not more about mentoring, but in terms of your learnings. When you were playing for Middlesex in county cricket, what lessons did you take from that, that approach or playing career to the programs with your students now?
Yeah, well, I suppose so I never had a mentor in my life, really. Neither of my parents were sporty, but they were very supportive of my dreams and my aspirations, and I'm incredibly grateful for the support they gave me and the upbringing they gave me. But I grew up in a small town in Alice Springs in Central Australia and moved to Perth, and then I moved to London, and I was I had different coaches and different mates and different teammates, but I never had a real set mentor or role model in my life. I'd spend 6 months in Perth, 6 months in Darwin, 6 months in Perth, 6 months in Darwin. Then I started going to England, and I never had someone to just constantly go back to and talk to and learn from. So I got a contract because my skills were good, and when I was on my day, I was sort of as good as anyone, really, but it was very sort of inconsistent. I'd be good one day in a month or 4 times a year, and in between I'd be okay, and a lot of the time I'd be pretty average, and I didn't really understand what it took for me to be my best. I didn't understand what it took to be successful consistently. So I think then I lost my contract, and I sort of then was at a point where I was like, what do I do? I've grown up trying to be a professional cricketer and play cricket for my country my whole life, and now what? And I started to I was spending a lot of time just learning and reading and trying to understand what makes people successful. So for me, it wasn't so much what I was learning. I was more in the moment and doing stuff when I was at Middlesex. But I think those months and years after that, I looked back and was like, through lots and lots of learning, lots and lots of questioning and being curious, I sort of was like, okay, why didn't I make it? And how can I now, why didn't I make it? Why have some others made it? What makes them so good? What makes them so successful? And how can I take those lessons from my experience and from what others are saying and doing and pass them on to others who are trying to do what I was trying to do?
You have a wonderful association with the Karnataka Institute of Cricket, which you've recently set up as well. What were some of the lessons that you've learned from there that is so different to the Australian landscape, especially with young Indian cricketers that are coming up?
Yeah, shout out to Irfan at KOC and all the team there. They're partners of ours. We're very, very grateful to have them in our life and them as sort of in our cricket world. I sort of first went there with a good friend of mine, Andrew Walton, 2 years ago, 2018, and then I went back. And when I first got there, I thought, this is amazing. I think that the transport was incredible. The weather was great. The food was amazing. The hotel was good. It was safe. It was clean. Everything about the experience was just so good. And I thought, I have to bring some young cricketers here. I have to, this is too good for young cricketers not to come and learn and develop and not just learn their cricket, but learn about life, see another culture, see how fortunate we are in Australia and in England and other parts of the world. And so last year we took a group of 11, and that was nearly the best 10 days of my life, apart from the birth of my daughter and my marriage and my debut. That was incredible 10 days and so much fun. And then we sort of were meant to go last month. We were meant to go for 3 weeks. We had 30 players from around the world coming with us, and unfortunately we weren't able to. But back to your question, what I learnt is just the love of the game, the love and the hunger for the game, and the determination that the young Indian cricketers, boys and girls, show is just second to none. And we might think we work hard or we train hard here in Australia or in England, the two countries I've spent my most time. And you look at what they do in India, there's so many people, there's so much competition that you just have to work harder than the others to get better and to rise above the pack. So I think that was a big thing for me, was like the work ethic and the amount that they play cricket. Like, I wrote an article for our website, and it was about a young 13 or 14-year-old boy in India compared to 2 of my best athletes here in Perth, and he scored 38 hundreds, and between my 2 best athletes, they'd scored 3, But the Indian boy was playing 60 games a year, and my boys were playing 20 or something. He was playing 80. I can't remember the numbers, but it's just there's so much cricket and there's so much love for the game. That was a big lesson for me about what's possible, really.
And on the other note, what did they appreciate from yourself going in there and, spreading your expertise and knowledge?
I think that they loved my enthusiasm, being a younger coach. They've got some excellent coaches in India, and they bring over some excellent coaches from overseas. Something Irfan's done for many years is really try and bring in international coaches, and they've had some wonderful coaches there. But I think the fact that I was a bit younger and I can connect with the athletes on a more of a personal level, and the fact that I had so much energy and I really wanted to talk about the mental skills that a lot of them hadn't heard much about before when I first went there 2 years ago. And I think that's what sort of resonated with them a bit, and that's what resonated with the coaches, and they all thought it was quite interesting and fascinating because they'd heard a million times about how to play a cover drive or how to play a cut shot or bowl a leg spinner, but it was just something a bit different to what they're used to, I think.
Like most people, in the last couple of weeks, I've been spending my time watching The Last Dance on Netflix, and I'm pretty sure you've done it as well. What I've learned from that documentary, and possibly with other sporting documentaries, is that athletes are unique in their own skill and talent and whatnot, but the great ones, they generally have this beast mentality of, never say die, never give up, always an opportunity to stamp their authority. How much of your sessions do you base on the mental side rather than the technical side?
Yeah, great question, mate. I think I can't give you a definite answer on that because everyone's unique, everyone's different, and everyone needs something different at different times. So one session, I might work with a player every single week, and most weeks we're doing technical changes, but then they come and they're a bit flat, they're a bit down, they're feeling a bit bad, they might have had a bad performance the weekend or something's going on outside their life. And so that session is focused on more about their thoughts and how they're feeling. So there's no definite answer. It's really it's an individualized thing, and it's an individual session thing, depending on their mood and where they're at. So I absolutely love The Last Dance. I've just finished watching it last night, and I've actually, what I'm doing at the moment is my very good mate, Chris Rogers, who played for Australia. He and I have put together these discussion mentoring groups where we have small groups of cricketers from all over the world and who are similar in their stage of their career or their age, and they're all working towards similar things. And we discuss topics, and we say, and we did this with 5 of our best athletes, an Australian under-19 player and a few others. We said, we talked about The Last Dance, and how can you relate that back to your life and your cricket? And it's just such an amazing story of Michael Jordan. He was a unique person. And I think those sort of characters, it's sort of their personality is what drives them. And then it's just, there's no secret to success. You put in the hard work, you learn, you constantly try and get better. You have good people giving you feedback and guiding you and mentoring you. And then you implement those sort of changes or that feedback, and you try and continue to get better. And then you just keep working harder and smarter over and over again, and you get better. And then you learn the game. You get into more and more experiences. You learn from that. You keep evolving, keep getting better. So to answer your question, I think I'm a huge believer in the mental side of the game. But at the same time, if your technique isn't at a certain level, you'll then always be doubting yourself. You'll always be scared of what could happen, and you don't have full faith or trust in yourself. And then you can't go out and play with freedom. You can't go out and have a free mind and react subconsciously. So I think that you've got to spend, especially young players, and this is actually a question I ask my guests on my podcast, the Cricket Mentoring Podcast. I say, at the highest level, what percentage is mental, what percentage is technical? And they mostly say it's mostly mental, but you have to have your game in order and at a certain point, or else you'll get found out. And I think that's so true, that if your technique or your physical skills aren't at a certain point, you'll doubt it, and B, the opposition will sense that and find that out, and they'll find ways to challenge you and get you out. So it's the technique is the basis or the foundation of everyone's game, and that has to be molded and worked on and developed and sort of grooved. And once you've got that, then it becomes a mental game. But if you haven't worked on and got your basics to and your technique and your foundations sorted, then you could have the best mental skills in the world and be in the present moment, but your technique's going to let you down if they bowl you an outswing and you can't play that ball consistently. So it starts with your technique and your skill and your method, and then it goes into, once you've got that sorted and you can trust yourself and you can get in the moment, then it comes down to all about trusting yourself, getting into like your subconscious, just seeing the ball and reacting, and really being in the present moment.
There would be a lot of athletes or young aspiring cricketers that come to you that, possibly have a certain type of expectation, whether it is, they have a certain visualization of where their game is at. When you look at someone like that, or, athletes like that, where do you decide, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is where they need to improve on. And it might be differing to what they have initially come with in their mindset.
So the first thing I ask is, well, what do they want to achieve? Like, and our process is, someone will engage us, we give them information. When they commit to a session, then we'll get them to fill out a questionnaire, so that before I meet them, I've reviewed their questionnaire and I've got some information on them. So I'm not going to meet them and trying to find out what's going on. I want to be able to maximize the time with them. So I'll read the questionnaire and I'll say, okay, they think they're good here, they think they're good there, these are their goals. And I'll ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how driven are you to succeed? And if they say 10, then I'm like, awesome, that's brilliant. And they'll say, what do you want to achieve? What are your goals in the game? When you look back on your career, what do you want to achieve? And if I understand that, I've then got some information of how I'm going to develop them, how I'm going to work with them on an individual basis. So every session is unique and individual, as I've already said. And then I'll say to them, what do you want to get out of this? Is this a one-off, or are we going to work together ongoing? Because if it's ongoing, I'll work with them differently. If it's a one, I'll do things quite differently. So once I have that sort of information, I can then structure the session. And like I say, first and foremost, I throw balls at them and I see what's going on in their game. And then as we progress through the session, I will then ask them, how are you feeling? Working. And then I sort of often say to them, when you're playing well, where do you score your runs? And they'll give me some more information. Okay, where do you normally get out? They'll give me some more information. So it's about building a relationship with them and getting as much information from them so I can give them more. But then also trying to get them to start. My job is to create self-sufficient cricketers, is to create cricketers who can problem solve and can adapt and sort their own issues out, not have someone tell them over and over and over what's going wrong and what they need to do. Because out in the middle, it's the batter's job to figure things out. They don't have anyone else there. They've got their partner, their teammate, but he's not going to coach them. He's worried about what he's doing. So I'm trying to just let them understand what they're doing. And some people will come, and I can read body language pretty well. They'll come, they'll be lacking confidence. And just the way they move to hit the ball, I can tell it's a mental thing. So I might try and unlock their mindset and say, right, all I want you to do is hit the ball hard or hit boundaries. I don't care if you get out. And then that creates some freedom, because maybe they've just been so confined in their mental thought process and they're so scared of making a mistake that I say, I don't care if you get bowled 10 times in a row, just hit the ball. And all of a sudden they start moving and hitting the ball better. Or they might be really confident, but their technique is awful. And we've got to then say, right, I think that what we need to do is we need to strip it back, and we need to just get your basics right. We go back to the basics. So it really depends on their goals, their mood, and where I see that I can add the most value in that time.
There's one thing that I've noted, in the last 2.5 years or that I've been watching your content, is that you have a wonderful way of making your students reflect either on their weaknesses, shortcomings, or strengths. Do you feel that approach now in this current, days is a lot better accepted than, the tough love that was, showered in the olden days?
Absolutely. And I think everybody's a unique individual. Everyone's got their strengths and their weaknesses. Everyone is human. Everyone's fragile. So one of my goals is to make everyone feel good about themselves. Like, regardless if they've hit like terribly for 40 minutes and they've hit okay for sort of the rest of the session, like, I want them to leave the session feeling like they're making progress, regardless of how that's actually gone. So I think, yeah, there's time for tough love. And when I'm working with players and I know them better and I know their personality, I know what makes them tick, I know what motivates them, inspires them, etc., then I can challenge them more. Then I can really give them some tough love and I can say, you're off today. Come on, fire up. This is not good enough. But a lot of the time, it's people are so negative towards themselves. They're their own harshest critic.
Yeah.
So difficult on themselves that they just need a little bit of support and a little bit of motivation, whether that's negativity or that critique is coming internally or it's coming from parents or coaches or somewhere else externally. I think a lot of the time my job is to build their confidence and build their belief and build their trust in themselves. So, yeah, I think tough love has its place at times and maybe more in a team environment when, especially if things aren't. But again, like team environments, you need to individualize your coaching. You can't just throw a blanket over 20 people and yell at them all because people are going to respond well to that. People are going to respond poorly to that. So I think it's about creating a connection with each individual and trying to find out what makes them tick. Some people are sort of a bit flat and they need a boost by maybe a bit of a yell or a tough love. And some people are really sort of gentle and they want to cuddle. So you've got to get to know each individual, and that's how you can coach them the best, I think.
Yep. Tell us more about the programs, Tom, in terms of cricket mentoring. I know there's the Under the Lid program, your Monday newsletters that come to me as well, which I read. What are the programs in terms of cricketing sense?
Yeah, cool. So I suppose at the top is all of our social media content that we obviously try and post something on Instagram every day, something on YouTube every day or every few days. We try and give away loads of content. We just try and flood the cricket market with knowledge and information and content that anyone can consume. As long as you've got a smart device and an internet connection, you can learn and develop. And something that I've done over 300 vlog episodes and always sort of documenting what I'm doing and sharing. So that's the number one at the top that anyone can do. And then I suppose those that are more serious and that want to take their learning deeper and really want to get specific answers and specific transformations in their game and learn something to move them towards their goals. We have our online programs. We've got a batting basics program, and it's basically the fundamentals of batting, the fundamental movements and techniques of all the shots, all the basic shots. We don't cover sort of the sweep shot and the slog sweep and that, but it's around front foot, back foot, all those basic shots, and it's talking about the fundamental movements of those shots. So that's number one, because I think that once you've got your basics or your fundamentals sorted and in good order, you can then expand. You can then, once you master them, everything becomes easier. So we've got that, which is an excellent program. We've got hundreds of players from around the world who've been through that program and had lots of sort of transformations. They've taken their game to a new level. So that's one. We've got our Under the Lid program, which we did with Josh Philippi, one of the sort of best up-and-coming cricketers in the world. And that's an insight into him as a professional cricketer. That's an insight into him as a person and his mindset, his game plans, etc. And that's an awesome, awesome insight into what a professional player's life is like, what their game is like. So we've got our strength and conditioning programs at the moment, which are all cricket specific, and they're basically for any cricketer, whether you're 12 years old, never done any strength work before, or whether you're a pro. We've got 18 different programs that sort of cater for batters, bowlers, and wicket keepers. Some are all body weight, some are in the gym, and they're done by two guys who work at the Wacker. They're incredibly experienced professionals in the strength and conditioning world. So they're awesome for those that want to sort of develop their physical sense, their body. And then we've got our coaching. We've got our in-person coaching here in Perth. We've got mentors in Melbourne. And then we've got digital coaching where we work one-on-one with players. Or as I said, myself and Bucky Rogers, we're doing small group learnings at the moment where we mentor people through 6-week programs. We answer questions. We give people sort of information to go away and learn and develop themselves and study. So that's a sort of a bit of and I could sort of go into more depth. And also the final one, which I didn't mention, is our video analysis. People are sending me footage and then I'm reviewing their technique and where they're at and giving them suggestions and ideas. So we're trying to we're trying to sort of cater for any cricketer really who wants to be, but not any cricketer, cricketers who want to be their best, cricketers who are desperate to succeed and be their best.
extensive and diverse, range of programs you already have. I can't keep a straight face because one of your mates said, how much pot have you been smoking? The other one said, how much sunscreen have you applied on your forehead?
On my forehead.
Yeah.
Very good. Someone just asked, who's Bucky Rogers? It's Chris Rogers, who played for Australia.
I was going to ask you about Chris Rogers next. You've worked with Chris Rogers, Josh Philippe, you mentioned as well, and John O'Wells. What have they brought and how have they impacted these young cricketers that are coming up?
Yeah, well, so Buck is a good friend of mine, as are Flip and Wellesley, and Buck's doing some work with us at the moment. He's in between roles. He's sort of been working for Cricket Australia, and he's sort of in between his next role, so he's doing some stuff with us at the moment. He's incredibly influential in my life. He gives me a lot of learnings from what he's learning at the top level with the best players. He works with some of the Aussie boys, so he and I are always talking about batting, always talking about how we can evolve our coaching, how we can evolve ourselves as people and our communication. So he's been incredibly influential in me, which then gets passed down to other players, and we speak on a daily basis. Flip has started to get more and more involved in the brand and the business. We did the program together, which we've mentioned, Behind the Grill, which is incredible insight into him as a person and a cricketer. And he's sort of trying to offer more value and mentor our younger athletes. We're sort of working on a program or something at the moment where he's going to work more closely with our younger athletes and develop them and talk to them. And Wellesley, we've done some stuff together at Perth Cricket Club. We play together. He's become a good friend, and I'm always learning from him. And those three guys, and I did some work with Darcy Short a couple of days ago, and he was excellent. So it's not so much that they're working with the younger players at the moment, but they're sort of, I'm learning from them, and everything I'm learning from them, I'm passing on. And they're also motivating the younger players. They're giving them belief that, okay, that's what they're doing. Well, I'm not that far away from that. So it gives me information and knowledge that I pass on, but also motivates and inspires the younger players that they're getting I'm sort of working with them, they're working with me, and they're not that far away.
What's some of the biggest challenges you've faced with mentoring? It's not one-way street where the students face challenges, but yourself would have gone through a few challenges. How did you overcome them as well?
It's a good question. I think every session or every day is a challenge, but it's just about trying to find ways to learn and see. And I always dream, and I think it's partly my personality, but partly the way I was raised, that I'm always trying to see the good in things. I'm always trying to see a positive. So I suppose where I'm at right now, my biggest challenge is giving my full attention to people and giving my full attention to my athletes and those, because I never feel like there's enough hours in the day. I never feel like I feel like I should be doing more. And so it's like, I'm something I've really made a conscious effort to do recently is just be really present with my athletes and not sort of be thinking about things I should be doing, thinking about the business, how I can evolve. And I've been guilty of that in the past, where I'm always trying to stay active and stay on top of things. So look, I'm very lucky to do what I do. I'm very lucky to be a role model for people and help them and mentor them in their life and their cricket. So it's everything you do in life comes with challenges, but I think it's how you perceive them. I love evolving. I love learning. I love spending time with people. So every challenge, I think, is a positive, and it gives me an opportunity to learn and grow. So my biggest challenges are in my business and growing my business. How do I continue to give value, but also make money and support my family and grow what we're doing to reach more people? So this is what I do for a living. And a lot of people online think that because I give away so much free stuff, that if I then try and charge for my services, that I'm a bad person. I'm like, well, you can consume all my free content, but I don't have free time to just give stuff away and give my time away. And I've got to pay for my daughter to sort of go to school and my family to be supported. So that's a challenge, and it's sort of an ongoing challenge that I'm trying to work through, is how do I continue to add value, but also make this business viable? Yeah.
Thanks, mate. That basically ends our chat. I'll see what questions there are from most of your friends and people that have asked from across the country and in India as well. A lot of them are asking, how are you? If you're doing well.
Hey, hey, Shabazz, Mr. Shabazz Chowdhury, Pace Journal, an absolute legend and an inspiration to all cricketers around the world, especially fast bowlers. I hope you're well, legend. And Shakti, you'll have to have him on here soon if you haven't done.
Yeah, well, I had a chat with Shabazz last year, and he's going through a really good campaign that just finished recently, addition of Timel Mills to
Yes.
the channel family, which is amazing. And
Yep.
Shabazz content is as good as anyone's out there as well. So anyone who doesn't or has not joined in Shabazz's Pace Channel platform, please go and do so.
Yes, absolutely.
Just a few questions, Tom. I am 14. This is from Tommy. I am 14 and still haven't made it into the reps. Should I be playing cricket?
Tommy, great question, mate. My question to you is, Google, who was the best 14-year-old in 2000? Question mark. Who was the best 14-year-old in 2001? Question mark. You'll never find an answer. Nobody cares who the best 14-year-old is in the world. What matters is who's the best 23-year-old, 25-year-old, 31-year-old. That's when the professional game begins, and that's when people make an impact. Matthew Hayden missed out. Matthew Hayden, Tommy, I don't know if you know who he is. I don't know where you're from, but he was an amazing Australian opener. He missed out on his Queensland. He missed out on his Queensland under-19 side. And he then went on to score 25, 30 test hundreds and one of Australia's best ever openers. 14, you've got so much time on your hands. Rep cricket doesn't matter right now. You need to work your ass off and then aim to be the best 20-year-old in the country or the best 20-year-old in your state, the best 22-year-old in the country, the best 25-year-old in the world. 14 doesn't matter about rep cricket, mate.
A question from Sushant. He's asking how to play on skiddy wickets or wickets.
Skiddy?
Skiddy, yeah.
Oh, it's a good question. I think every wicket's slightly different and you've got to evolve and adapt depending on the conditions. But skiddy wickets obviously don't bounce as much. They sort of obviously come on. So I think you've just got to, you've got to probably lower your back lift a little bit if you've got a high back lift, and you can use the pace of the ball. So if the ball's skidding on, you can transfer. If you can transfer your weight into the ball, you don't have to hit the ball as hard. But it's really hard to put a generic answer onto that, I think. For me, it's if you've got a good technique, if you've got good fundamentals, and you're focused on the present moment, you will be able to adapt and evolve. But you're not going to play the cross-bat shots. You shouldn't be really going back and cutting and pulling if it's skidding and staying a little bit lower. You'd be more looking to play with a straight bat. You can still go back, but you've got to play with a straight bat. But really look to sort of keep your head still, keep your shape, and stick to the basics.
A few of the questions are related to mistakes as well. Can you talk about mistakes in the game and how to approach that?
Yeah. I think mistakes are one of the most... what am I trying to say? I think mistakes are a good thing. I think that they're perceived as a bad thing and we're scared of them, but mistakes are part of what we do. A little story is that I was listening to a brilliant podcast with Mike Hussey a few months ago, and he said in the podcast, he asked Shane Warne, in your whole career, everybody should know who Shane Warne is. And if you don't know who Shane Warne is, get off this live. He's one of the greatest bowlers ever. And he said, Hussey asked Warne and said, in your career, how many good days do you think you had? And Warne thought about it for a while, and he said probably 51%. So 51%, so half of the days of cricket, he had good days, and that's the best cricketer in the world. So imagine everyone else. It's probably a lot lower than that. There's an old cliche that says we have more bad days than we have good days. So I think that mistakes we're human beings. We're not programmed robots. So we're going to make mistakes. And cricket is a tough game. It's a tough art. You've got to accept that you're going to make mistakes, and then you've got to see them as an opportunity to learn. And then you just try and learn from it and move on. You try and evolve what you're doing and then move on. I think that reflecting is one of the most powerful things people can do. If you can reflect on what you've been through and you can learn from it, then you've got an incredible opportunity to become better. So don't be scared of mistakes. Don't fear them. Don't fear failure, and just say, right, I'm on a never-ending journey of getting better. It doesn't go in a straight line. You might go like this, and then there, and then you're down here, and then you're up. It doesn't go in a straight line. So mistakes and failure, or mistakes and bad performances, they're all part of it. If you can embrace it and learn from it, you're going to be okay.
This next question is for myself. What brand of hair gel am I using? It's called Red Muck. So you guys can look it up, Red Muck. This
Very
question.
good. Your hair looks good, mate. It obviously works well.
I'm 36. I don't have any white hair at the moment, so I'm hoping that it stays like that.
Very good.
Question from Bubba Gemini. He's asking, he was recently dropped from his county, and he's asking how to stay motivated.
I think I saw that question come through, and he said he was 20 years old or something. But I think you got to go back to why, like, what do you want to achieve in the game, and why are you playing cricket? And if you can answer those two questions, that should be your motivation. If you want to be excellent and you want to achieve great things, then being dropped at 20 years old is only one part of your journey. You've got a whole lot of cricket ahead of you. You've got a long way to go. So that doesn't mean you can't make it. That doesn't mean you can't be great. It just means you've got to go away and you've got to work on those things that let you down and probably got you released, and you've got to come back better. You've got to come back twice as good as you are now. You've got to evolve, and you've got to adapt, and you've got to work on those things that weren't quite good enough. And if you want to be great, then you'll find a way to be motivated. If you're just looking to be great but you're not that interested, then maybe you're done. Maybe the motivation's gone. Maybe your dream's gone. But I think it comes back to what you want to achieve and why you actually play cricket. If you play cricket because you love it, well, then that's your motivation. You want to go and play cricket because you love it.
Yeah. This is a very good question as well from Ben in UK. I think he's a coach himself. He's asked, what's the best way to develop support and role clarity in coach and athlete relationship?
I think, I know Ben. He's a good boy. So I think his question is, how does a coach... Can you read that out again, sorry?
Yep. He's saying, what's the best way to develop support and role clarity in a coach and athlete relationship?
Okay, so it depends the environment. If you're coaching an individual, then you've got to understand from the information they give you what their role is in the team, and then you've got to try and build a plan around their role. But if you're coaching a team, then you're probably giving the players a role. So for me, I coach individuals. The players come from each of their teams all over the place here in Perth or around the world. They come to me for individual help. So they have to give me their information about their role. Like, okay, I'm a number 3, I do this, I do that. I bat number 6, and I come in at the end. So they give me information. So then you can build a plan. I think it's about building a plan and firstly understanding them as a person. Secondly, understanding their strengths and their weaknesses and how they want to go about it. If someone comes to me and says, right, I want to score 100 or 40 balls every time I bat, okay, well, I might not agree with it, but if that's what the person wants, then I've got to find a way to help them achieve that. And they might come back a year later and go, I was being silly, I actually want to bat for 6 hours. Well, then, okay, well, we've got to adapt, we've got to change. So I'm not going to just say, yep, that's perfect. I'm going to, through my questioning of them, try and get to the real heart of what they want to achieve and how they want to go about it. Because I don't want to just say to someone, right, okay, you're batting 3, you have to bat like Rahul Dravid, or you have to bat like Ricky Ponting. They might say, oh, I love just spending time in the middle and fighting hard. Say, awesome, okay, let's build your game plan around that. That's your role. And let's just build your game plan around that. They might say, I want to be a finisher like Andre Russell, or I want to bowl first change or bowl at the death. And so whatever they want to do and their role go hand in hand, then for my job is to really help them achieve that goal, help them achieve that, what they do.
Question from Shabazz Chaudhry. Can I
just answer a question quickly? Maxio Dowd goes, thoughts on the Prince of Perth, Ryan Campbell? Cambo, coach of Netherlands.
Netherlands, yep.
One of the great men, Cambo, the Prince of Perth. Yep, very good. Maxi, I hope you're well too, legend.
Yep, I was reading Shahbaz Chaudhry's question, Mr. Pace Journal. Was it more nerve-wracking making your first-class debut or getting the quarantine cut from your wife?
Well, I managed to sleep all night before my cut, and I didn't get any sleep the night before my debut. So I think my debut was slightly more nerve-wracking.
Question from V was, which shot is your favorite shot and who plays it the best in international cricket?
I'd probably say two. I love the cover drive. Who plays it best? Look, everyone in international cricket has a cover drive. I think it's hard to say someone plays it better than others. And another shot that I love when I'm playing at my best, and I'm playing real in the past and I played well, is the pull shot. When you play facing good fast bowling, if you can get a pull shot away, it's no better feeling. And again, look, I think the cricketers in this day and age, they've got all the shots. I think you think of the great players and they all play all the shots well. So it's really hard to say one person is the best.
Let's see, what's the next question?
Shahbaz, hope you're well, mate. Good to see you. Speak to you soon.
There's a lot of funny questions, man, and some of them inappropriate, so I won't put it out.
Few people enjoying their Thursday night.
It's your mates here, Skulls. Rupert
Mate.
Sapoda asked, how should I choose a bat? I'm not a big hitter, more four kind of a guy. So hits more fours than sixes, I guess.
Yeah. Choosing a bat is a unique, individualized thing. I think it's all about feel. So it wants to feel good in your hand. For me, I'm not fussy. I don't look at grain. I don't look at the type of wood. I just feel it, and then I bounce the ball up and down. If it feels good off the willow and it feels good in my hand, that's good enough for me. I'll look at the weight roughly, but I know that I like sort of a 2.8, 2.9, but I'm not going to weigh it. It has to be 2.8.3 like some people. So for me, it's just a feel thing.
I think most people are like that, right? They have a feel of the bat, and even recently Tendulkar played that bushfire relief one, and he picked up what was it? Was it Gray Nichols that he picked up? And he said, he just said it feels right. It's not the
I think that's what most people do. Some people are particular, but I think most people just go pick it up. Yeah, feels good. I'm happy.
All right. How to not get mentally fatigued during an innings? This is the first proper question that Niga, who's asked this one proper question. How to not get mentally fatigued during an innings?
Niga, good on you, mate. Good. You've been full of banter. I can see coming through there, mate. Well, it's all about, like, if we imagine, this is something that Chris Rogers has taught me. If you imagine your brain is a resource, and imagine it's a water tank, then when your resource is full at the start of the day, your water tank's full. And as you expend energy and you think and you're really focused, your water tank's going to lower. So our job is to learn how to turn the tap off at the bottom of the water tank and just keep that water tank as full as we can for as long as we can. So that's through switching off. That's through relaxing in between balls and in between overs and when you're at the non-striker's end. Because you can't expect to just be fully focused the whole time. If you can learn and develop how to switch on and off, then you can bat. You don't get mentally fatigued. You're only then switched on for 6 seconds. The bowler's halfway through their run-up. You switch on, you focus on the ball, you react, you play your shot, you do a quick reflection, then you switch off. You relax for 15 seconds. But if you're fully focused for that whole 3 minutes you're on strike, you're going to get very drained very quickly. So this is something we speak about in our podcast, Under the Lid, myself and Buck and a good mate, Charlie Burke. It's a really fascinating topic, how to manage your mind. It's something that I'm still learning about. There's so much information out there on psychology, but I think, that's something I've learned, is the ability to switch on and switch off, relax in between balls. Just finished, you reflect or you review, then you relax in between balls, and then you refocus or you reset. So the relaxing in the middle is really important to managing yourself.
And there's a lot of stories of international cricketers who actually, between overs, they relax or sing a song or something like that to take their mind off, and then basically focus back on when the bowler's ready to bowl the ball. One question from Stefan, I think it's more a coaching related question. What would you give in terms of advice to a young coach?
Learn. Always be trying to learn. This is whether you're a player or a coach. There's so much information out there. The only way I'm where I'm at, and I've got a long way to go, I don't know everything, but the only way I'm able to pass on information and help players is by learning about the game, learning how to communicate, learning what other coaches do well, other successful coaches, learning about each individual, learning the best methods to connect with someone. Learning is the only advice I can ever give anyone, really. It's just, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to educate people, trying to help them learn. So any young coach, I was a young coach once, and I wasn't really coaching properly. And even though I coached kids when I was a teenager, I coached kids in tennis, and I coached a little bit when I was an overseas player in England, I wasn't doing this cricket coaching properly until I was 25, and I'm now 32. So if you're a young coach, 17, 18, 20, 21, you're probably ahead of where I was. And I just have had an unbelievable sort of thirst for learning and trying to better myself every day.
Would you believe, Tom, if I told you that I'm older than you?
No, I think you look younger.
I am. 4 years older than you, mate. Anyways, next question. By Tyler FC, how do you train junior fast bowlers?
I don't know much about fast bowling, so I try and stay in my lane. I try and focus on what I know, and that is something that I sort of am pretty passionate about. I don't want to sort of go and try and learn all about fast bowling because that takes away from my knowledge on batting. So for me, I just try and help batters, really. So fast bowlers, it's about getting your body right first and foremost, getting the fundamentals of your movement right, your technique, people call it, but getting those fundamentals of your action right, and then getting in the contest. But cricket's about a contest between bat and ball. I think too many people get caught up in their technique. Technique's important. As I've said, you need a foundation, but then it's about getting in the contest. So, I'm not an expert on fast bowling. Go and check Pace Journal out. But we've also got a fast bowling mentor coming on very soon, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome. This is from Brian. What is your number one advice for facing extreme pace as a youngster?
Have a clear mind. And that comes back to, I spoke about at the start, it comes back to trusting your technique, and it comes back to putting in the work. You've got to get out of your comfort zone at practice so that you can be comfortable in the game. If you practice comfortable and you just face underarms, or you just face half volleys, or you just face slow bowling, the game's going to feel really hard. But if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone at practice and actually challenge yourself, then the game can become easier in the middle. But ultimately, when you're out in the middle and you're facing really fast bowling, you want to be as clear as you can. You've got limited time to see the ball, make a decision, and then move and hit the ball. And if your mind is distracted, you're going to be more likely to make a mistake. You're going to be less likely to make a good decision and execute your shot. So the only way you can really have a clear mind is if you trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, whether you're going to scared of getting out, scared of getting hurt, you're going to then be doubting everything. You're going to be consciously trying to control everything. So it comes back to putting in the work, getting your basics of your movements and your technique right, and then getting in the moment and just reacting.
Another question on technique. Recently the game has changed a lot. A lot of power hitting has come towards the end of the innings now. Pranit's asking if technique is still more important if you're a finisher.
Absolutely. I think fundamentals of the basics of batting are the same. I think you've got to get in good positions to be able to hit the ball where you want to hit them. So you can't just throw technique out the window and say, right, I'm just going to hit it wherever I want to hit it. You've got to have good basics so that you can hit it where you want to hit it. So your technique might be slightly different in that you adopt a bit of a hitting technique, or like Julian Wood talks about a baseball style technique, bottom hand dominant, back hip dominant, rather than head going to the ball, front side dominant, which is your traditional cricket technique. But you still have to have that technique of that style sorted and in order. You can't just go and expect to just do it. So I think no matter what you're doing, you have to have a good basis. You have to have good fundamentals so that it's not a fluke. You can consistently do it.
Akshita has asked, is it possible to make a comeback to a sport after, taking a break for about 3 years?
Absolutely. Again, it comes back to what do you want to achieve? If you're playing for fun, then of course you can. If you're playing to do something in the game or achieve something, then you're going to probably have to put in a lot more work than others to catch up. So absolutely you can. A break, especially if you played when you were young, you would have developed your skill to a certain point. Yes, you would have gone backwards, but you'll pick it up quickly. So yeah, 100%. But don't put huge expectations on yourself at the start. Just come back, have fun, and continue to learn and try and evolve. And that's where you can really make it work.
Awesome. And Max O'Dowd, he goes, there's a super over, you're going out to bat. Who do you send in? Corey Rudges or Piers Fletcher?
Corey Rutgers or Piers Fletcher. Two boys who were part of the Rotterdam Cricket Club in the European Cricket League final last year, who won it. Some very, very good lads. Corey Rutgers, I probably think, wins that battle. Piers, I don't actually know. I think he whacks him, but he's more of a seamer. Corey's the master of the scoop or the sort of the lap. So, yeah, I'd probably send Corey out to his wise head to get the job done.
And Josh Ager has asked, any tips on transitioning to Premier Cricket for a youngster?
Don't overthink it. Just keep getting better. Regardless of what level you're playing, the game stays the same. It's ball versus bat. Bowlers are going to run in, try and knock you over, hit your stumps, nick you off. Like Premier Cricket and Junior Cricket are the same thing. There's titles different. You're going to play better players, but you've got to, if you work hard, you're going to be better. So just work hard, be the best you can be, and just go out and have a crack. There's no secret formula. There's no, okay, you have to be able to do this to play Premier Cricket. Everyone does it differently. But if you're evolving, learning, and trying to be the best you can be, that's all you can ask yourself.
Tom, I think this one's more on dealing with pressure because it's a specific question, but I'll see how you answer this. How do you how do you go about facing to a hat-trick ball? Is it any different to any other?
No different. Again, that's just the story that's going on. At the end of the day, that you got to react to the ball that's bowled to you. So, look, you can walk out and go, "Oh, I'm facing a hat-trick ball. Oh dear, don't get out. You'll be the hat-trick," and you become then very tense and very uptight, and you make more mistakes. But you can just walk out and follow your process and your routine that you do every single time, and hopefully you have a process and a routine. But if you don't, that's something you got to work on. But yeah, I don't think it should make a difference to how you play it. If anything, there's more pressure on the bowler because they've got such an amazing thing they could achieve. That creates pressure. So on you, it's just like another innings.
Question by Bailey. I think you probably have an understanding working with Josh as well, Josh Philippe. Any tips on keeping?
Again, I don't know too much about keeping. I've never kept. I kept one game in my life, and I tore my quad, so I stopped doing it when I was younger. So again, I don't like talking too much about things I don't know. So keeping's not. Yeah, let's leave that one. That's something I'll leave to an expert to talk about.
Another question from Ben from UK. Do you receive advice from sports psychologists for mindset work you provide? Sorry about this. My iPad.
Yeah. So I don't speak to sports psychologists specifically, but I'm a consumer of books, podcasts, audio books, vlogs, TED Talks. I'm always trying to learn and upskill myself. So there's so much information in the world. that I don't speak to someone who's like all the time who's got a degree, but I'm always learning from people who know far more than I do. So yeah, Ben I've done some work with. He's a good guy. He's doing some good things. He's training to be a sports psychologist himself. So I'm doing a little bit of work with a sports psychologist. We might put a program together. He's very good at what he does, but I don't. Yeah, generally I just have studied the best players, listened to what's going on, and now I teach through my learnings.
We have 5 minutes, so we'll ask maybe 2 or 3 questions. One is from Keenan. He says, how important is your back lift?
I think the position your back gets into is really important. If it's the starting point of your swing, and your swing is what hits the ball. So everything to do with your body is what then determines how well you hit the ball, but your bat is what hits the ball. So ultimately your bat swing is what matters the most. But if you're getting your head into a bad position or your body into a bad position, your bat's going to follow that, and it's going to be a result of that. So your back lift is important. If it gets too far towards fine leg or behind you, then you're not going to be able to play in straight lines. You're not going to be able to then go in an efficient manner, swing your bat through the line of the ball. So your back lift is really, really the starting point. So you want to get it into a nice point, a nice spot, somewhere at sort of second or third slip, and then it comes round in a little arc, and then down through the line of the ball. Ultimately, you want straight lines going through the ball to where you hit it, and then your finishing position stays in line with the ball, so you're not slicing it. So your back lift is the starting point. It's something that I teach in our Batting Basics online program. It's one of the fundamentals of batting, and if you don't do it well, if you do it wrong, it can cause a lot of issues. And if you don't fix it when you're young, it takes a lot of time to try and fix when you're older.
Another coach that I follow on LinkedIn, and he's been talking a lot about is Gio Colasi, and he talks a lot about bat lift as well. So if you want to see some of that, you can follow him on LinkedIn as well, and you'll understand what Tom was talking about. One question from Pranav. He's asked that cricket is the second most famous or followed sport, most popular sport in the world, but not very global. Do you feel that the ICC should do something to spread cricket?
Oh, look, I don't know if this is something I should comment on. I'm sure the ICC are doing everything they can. Cricket is in the second sort of sport on that, what he said. I don't know the stats, but basically because of the population in India. And cricket is not really a global game, because you go to America or South America and there's not many people, especially locals. There's the expats that play. But look, I'd love to see cricket being played in all countries around the world, and I think it is. I think you go to anywhere, and if there's Indians or Aussies or English, they are playing cricket, but they're in small numbers, and there's not many locals. So things like the European Cricket League, which is run by my good friend Daniel Weston, is amazing for world cricket, because it's trying to promote and grow the game on a grassroots level in Europe, which is not a cricket playing sort of continent. So I'd love to see cricket in 20 years played all over the world by locals and by sort of grassroots people. But I think the ICC are probably doing what they can to make it happen.
Thanks, Tom. We've got 1 minute left. One last question is, can you give a Shotboy to the rest of the audience today?
Shotboy!
Awesome.
That's a saying I sort of started, and then people have picked up on it and they love it. And I seem to go to the nets now and I hear people saying all the time, Shotboy. And I'm not saying that I was the first person ever to say it, but it's something I started saying on my content. And yeah, it seems to be picked up now.
The hashtag Shotboy from now on. Thanks, mate, for joining me on what is it, Thursday night? I can't even remember the days. If people have more questions, just send it across and I'll push it through to Tom and see if he may want to answer them. Once again, thank you so much. Hopefully you guys all learned something from Tom. I know I did. If you guys want more content from Tom, please follow his channel. Whoever's not following, I'm pretty sure most of you guys are. And hopefully we can do a few more of these sessions in the future.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for the questions.
Cheers, mate. All the best and stay safe. All the best to the family as well.
Thank you, mate. Good on you. You too. Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining.